Good morning, everybody. Can I get some ones in the chat window if you can hear me? Oh, sounds like we can hear. All right, awesome. Awesome. Welcome to the Tuesday Notary Titans TNT with Carol Ray, myself. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. We have Carol Ray, founder of Notary2Pro. Carol, are you on yet? And if you're talking, you might be on mute, because everybody's on mute right now. I'll give Carol a couple more minutes. I know she has some technical difficulties sometimes out there on the Delta. And then Laura Biewer is just listening in today. She's not able to actually participate because she's helping out a client right now. So without further ado, let's ado for just a few more seconds here for Carol. Carol Ray going once, twice. She'll jump on here, guys. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day, your Tuesday morning, to tune in with us as we discuss some of our favorite topics in the notary business, as well as answer the questions that you have submitted. We've got some really great ones coming through. So why don't we just jump in and kind of start with there. First, is there anybody on the call that has not submitted a question that might have one, or a challenge that you have that maybe we can help answer right now? Anybody have something pressing at the top of your mind? Feel free to either unmute yourself and ask it live, or you can type it into the chat window. Lots of good mornings. Everybody's in a great mood today. I love it.
Hey, Bill, this is Lori.
Hey, Lori, how's it going?
It's going okay. I just have a question for the group. I work 9 to 5, and I kind of do this business on the side. I just want to know, how do you guys transition from a 9 to 5, basically being full-time, to making your business full-time? I hear all the success stories. I'm very excited. I want to do the same thing, but I just feel like I'm not really ready for that yes because of my 9 to 5 that I have. Yeah,
I hear you. So you're not quite ready to go the escrow direct route, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I can do it. I see it there, but it's just, if they say yes, I may not be ready, know, because I have to work,
Well, that's a great question, because if you're going to go escrow direct, one of the things that you have to be is available. Those escrow officers are looking for a one-stop resource, someone they can always call and count on. So if you're not able to deliver that yet, then you're feeling right. You want to kind of tap the brakes a little bit and maybe refocus on some other revenue building avenues first. Or you can start a team too, where you just refer out the business. So even though you can't actually do the signing, maybe you've got other notaries in your area that you can farm that out to and help build that up, just to give yourself the confidence that you've got some volume whenever you jump out there. The reality is, this is like any other business. There's going to be a little bit of risk involved. So what you want to do is try to position yourself to mitigate that risk a little bit. So that might look like a fat savings account to get you through the first few months of starting. It also might be just focusing on the signing companies first, building that up. One of the things that we advocate for is getting signed up with as many of those signing companies, good signing companies, somewhere between 50 and 100 of them as possible. If you get there and you start seeing the volume, and if you're turning down more business than you're accepting, then you can start to make some other decisions in your life. But when it really comes down to it, I mean, it's just going to be a matter of whether or not you have enough money to survive and then to thrive as well. And that decision differs between everybody so much. It's really hard to nail that down.
Okay.
Did that help answer the question at all?
Yes. Yes, you did. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And then Diana says, I'd like to know from start to finish, step by step, to do a table signing. Yeah, we could definitely do that. That would take a little bit of time, so we can't do it on the call here. But if you are in Carol's course, if you are in my course, we do make that available to you so you can see it either chunked down or all together. Also, Carol has a full video on YouTube of her going through a signing. And even though things might have changed a little bit as we go through, the basic flow of that and how it works can kind of stay the same. Every lender, every title company, every state has different disclosures, and not every signing is going to be exactly the same. Part of the preparation for this is finding some joy in that and being able to adapt and become like a MacGyver. No matter what's thrown at you, you have that confidence that you can take care of it.
Good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning. You're here.
I'm sorry. I'm late. I was on with a student, and must be mentoring season because I've probably spent 15 hours on the phone the last day.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, good morning, everybody, and I apologize for being a little bit late.
Yeah, no problem, Carol. Thank you for joining us. I know you're very busy as well. I know we all appreciate you taking the time to join us on the Tuesday morning.
I love this.
We just got through our first question. Carol Ray, if you don't know already, is the founder of Notary2Pro. And we're going to go ahead. Teresa's just asking a follow-up question to what we just talked about, where I talk about the different signing companies and where do you find them. And there's lots of resources out there. If you are part of a course, in all likelihood, there's going to be some sort of list of preferred vendors that you could reach out to, as well as a comprehensive list on notaryrotary.com, where those signing companies are actually rated by the various signing agents that have been utilized by them. That's not the best list, that for sure. There's companies on there that are rated from 1 star, which are pretty the ones that you want to avoid, and then you have the 5-star companies as well, and lots in between. Some of those companies have already gone out of business, but there's like 800 of them on that list. So you can do a little bit of research. It's tedious. It's like applying for a job. You're going to be applying using the same information over and over and over again. So that's why it's so important to get yourself organized, have all of your notary stuff in one file. So it makes it a little more efficient as you're filling those out. A lot of people do not want to go through that. So they will not apply. They will not sign up with 100 different companies. But the ones that do, their phones are ringing and dinging. So their business is coming through. Carol, did you have anything else to add on that one?
No, not really, except that when you're taking Bill's course, my course, learning from Laura, I say this all the time now, it's going to be what I repeat. Listen to us. You're paying us money to give you good advice and to give you guidance. And if you don't follow through, you're missing the boat. And that's what Bill was saying. We tell you what to do, who to sign up with, how to handle yourself, and you either do it and become successful, or you say, that's too hard, and it is grueling. We all agree it is grueling to call these companies and get signed up with them. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work. If you just listen, you'll be successful.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about being in this role from this side is listening to the success stories, your guys' success stories, when you get new clients, when you complete your first signing or your 1,000th signing. And the people that we get to talk to, they're talking about the implementation of all of these steps that helped make that happen. So it really does work. We're not pulling stuff out of our rear end, just making stuff up, where most of us have been or are signing agents. We're in this business with you to kind of just show you what worked for us, and it's working for many, many others as well.
I have a question for you, Bill.
Yeah.
When you work with your students and you guide them and they call you and they say, I did what you told me, and now I've got 3 signings coming up. Is this something you just kind of, oh, that's really nice? Or do you get really excited, don't you?
Yeah, that lights me up. I think that's starting this course and being able to interact with all of you has, I found a new passion for me too. I mean, I pop out of bed every morning. I love looking at the comments in my Facebook group. I love reading the emails, the text messages. And occasionally, some of you are still leaving voicemails, even though I request that you don't, Carol Ray.
You mean like me?
I had 2 messages from her. I'm like, what? Yeah. But no, I actually really do. And I know you do too. And I think that's how we connected so well, is that we get fired up for this level.
We have that passion.
And then we got some questions here about the price per signings and stuff like that. And because so many people are still asking about that, I'm going to address that when we get to it in the PowerPoint slide. So let me jump back over here now, and let's get through some of these questions as well. All right. And this kind of pertains to the part-time question that we had just a few minutes ago as well. Do signing agents get many jobs after 6 p.m. on the weekdays or on the weekends? Carol, do you have a?
Yeah, I have an answer.
Yeah, jump in.
Well, I think most of the time, the weekends, you don't do an awful lot. You really don't. I mean, there are times when people, of course, work all week, and they will ask you if you can do something. If you do, at least what I have found over the years, primarily most of the weekend signings will be during the day and less on Sunday than on Saturday. But I think mostly your signings are going to be during the week, and from 6 p.m. on, this is when you're probably going to be the busiest. Depending, if you're doing reverse mortgages and you live in an area where you're near a lot of seniors, and so maybe a lot of your calls are for reverse mortgages, you're going to find that you'll be going there anytime during the day, mornings and afternoons, because these people are, for the most part, retired in their home. So at their convenience, you'll go during the day. But most of my signings, I know for years, and most of my students' signings are in the late afternoons, early evenings.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And you make a good distinguisher with the reverse mortgage. Those usually are in the middle of the afternoon or around 10 or 11 in the morning, I've found. But what I have found in my experience is that with signing companies, if you're working with signing companies, a lot of those signings do happen after 6 p.m. In fact, right at that 5 to 8 is like your golden hour of getting a lot of signings started, at least. And then for escrow direct, though, I find kind of the opposite. With escrow direct, business is business and it's happening. Usually the people who can't come to title are at work or at an office, so you might be doing lots of escrow direct during regular business hours, that 8 to 5. And then I've also kind of carved a niche out for myself for that 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. time slot. I'm an early bird. I'm a little on the crazy side, but I have trained my clients to now offer those time slots to their customers. Because if a customer can get everything done by 8 o'clock in the morning without having to fight traffic and still make it to work and not getting a babysitter, they love that. So I've kind of carved a niche out in that way. Okay, next question. Do I need to buy an additional bond? I believe I have $50,000 as required as a notary. I put this question on here for a couple of reasons. I think number one, we have to clarify the difference between what a notary bond is, or surety bond, in other words, and then what the E&O, or errors and omissions insurance is, because that does get very confusing in the very beginning, especially if you're not used to this type of environment. So Carol, do you have a quick definition for just a notary bond?
A bond is something that's required by the state. Not all states require it. A lot of states only require like a $10,000 bond. An E&O insurance is something that protects you in the event that you make an error, if there's an error on documents. The difference between the two is that with a bond, if something serious happens and somebody goes after your bond, they sue you, they're going after something that you did wrong, the bonding company will pay the claim, but you have to pay the bonding company back. With the E&O insurance, let's say you have $25,000, which is what I recommend to my brand new students. They're not working for title yet. They need to be prepared to get $100,000. But let's say they start off with $25,000. They do something wrong with the venue, and somebody makes a claim against it. They say, you did something that cost us money. and they put, let's say, a $5,000 suit on you or a claim against your E&O insurance, the E&O company will pay that. And then whatever's left, you still have insurance. Like, let's say it is $25,000, somebody sues you for $5,000, company pays it off, you still have $20,000 in E&O insurance. A bond, to my knowledge, I don't know people who've ever increased their bond. They get what they have to have. It's the E&O insurance that they would be increasing.
Yes, absolutely. So the E&O insurance really protects you as the notary in the event that you make an honest mistake. The bond is more designed to protect the consumer or the customer.
Exactly.
And that's, most states have it, some states don't. But 50,000 is really high for a bond. That's why I thought there might be some questioning on the definition. So usually a bond will only be from 5,000 up to 10,000, I think is the highest bond I've seen. And then the E&O insurance, just like Carol said, 25,000 absolute minimum. To give you an idea though, guys, that's usually about $26 a year. So 25,000 E&O insurance will cost you about $26 a year from the National Notary Association. So it's not a huge expense. If you have any expectation of going to work with Escrow Direct, you're going to need to increase that to a minimum of $100,000. And we're actually seeing a lot more title companies and even lenders requiring even more than the $100,000 policy on that. So if you ever encounter that, you have to kind of evaluate your own business. If it makes sense, because you're going to get lots of volume from a company that requires that level of insurance, you might move forward. If it does not make financial sense for you, you may not want to do it.
And just a little hint, because I've seen this at work. If we have some title companies that we send our students to, and I got a reaction from one of the vendor managers. So if you even think you might get work, if you're calling and trying to sign up with title companies, you need to let them know that you understand that if you do get work from them, that you need to increase your E&O insurance up to a minimum of $100,000. I just talked to a vendor manager the other day about this. He said one of the things he really liked about the fact that my students call, they're fairly new, they've got the $25,000. He said, but right off the bat, they tell him, I understand that if you, are willing to hire me, that I need to increase my E&O insurance. I'll do it today.
Yeah. I would put this in the be ready for yes column. That's one of my big things. Be ready for yes. If you are going to start networking, then you should have it in place already. The way these conversations can go, guys, when you're networking and you meet an escrow officer and the timing is just right and they need your services, they'll be like, great, I need somebody right now. Can you call my office and we'll set it up, or what's your information? It can happen that quick. So you just want to be ready for it. All right. Next question on this one.
Can I ask something real quick?
Absolutely.
Hey, okay. Just for clarification, the bond, if it is used, you have to pay that amount back. If the E&O is used, you do not pay that amount back, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
And then the E&O insurance is kind of cool too, because it covers not only legal fees, but some of the damages that might get awarded as well. So for me personally, like if you're somebody who has assets and you want to protect things, it might make sense to have a $100,000 policy. Because just because you have a $25,000 policy doesn't mean damages will stop at $25,000 as well. So you might have a lawyer or a estate planner that might recommend differently as well. There's lots of factors there. The next question is, what are the requirements for a printer that you will need for this job? General idea on the printer requirements, Carol? I know you have an opinion on this.
Yeah, this is a tough one for newbies, especially because back in the days when we had to buy laser printers, you have to have a laser printer. We would pay upwards of $700. That's what they were, the dual tray laser printer.
Yeah.
Things have changed now, and I'm very happy about it. My husband just bought one out the door, an HP single tray laser printer, a great printer, all metal parts, which is important. And he paid $219 out the door. So in addition to that, we go with page separator. There's a little discount for the students, and they are able to get the Pro version for $60. And that turns that printer, that laser printer, into from just a regular printer into a dual tray. Dual tray does not mean that there's two trays. Most single tray printers will print letter size paper and legal size, depending on how you instruct your printer and what size paper you put in. So what I've been suggesting to my students when they're short on funds, don't have that $600 or $700 to go out, is go out and look for the sales and get a nice, I like HP. Okay. I don't get money from them, but I love HP. But look around for these, a good printer, laser printer, doesn't have to be a lot of money. Get something like the page separator, which takes all the documents, separates and puts them in 2 file folders, one for legal, one for letter. Then you can use any printer to print, that stack of papers, and it costs you under $300. And those printers last for a long time. Plus, they have the toner packages rather than the cartridges, which are very expensive to run. And so that's what I'm suggesting now for printers.
I think that's a great starting point too. I've never been a fan of the page separator just because I don't like the 2 different places. So what I've been recommending is the Brother printer, and I see Teresa actually posted it here. The 6200 DW is on Amazon. It runs about $300, and it has both trays. And although depending on the browser you're using and the software, sometimes it works right and sometimes it doesn't. You have to be online with Brother support sometimes. But it works really well, and it's the faster speed. The alternative is to do that Brother 5200. And technically it's just a slower print speed, but from the people I've talked to, there has not been a significant difference, and it's a cost difference of $60 to $80. So you could get it for $220, $230, and you'd have the dual tray, so it could print the loan packages exactly as they're coming out if you get the settings correct. Yeah, Judy says she loves the 5200 or the 6200. All right, great feedback, guys. Thank you. Next, is it worth paying for the NNA conference? I heard it was just one big drunk party. What's your experience? I think we may have asked this question last time, but I'm still getting lots of questions. Carol, do you have an opinion on the NNA conference?
Yeah, I do. Look, this is really difficult for me, only because I've really had my issues over the years with the NNA, which you're aware of, Bill, other people are aware of. But I have been trying, and so have they, to work together. And this past year, they actually invited us to present at the conference. And since I don't travel, I had somebody stand in for me, one of my wonderful students and graduates. And it turned out really, really well. She did a great presentation. We got a lot of really good feedback. I think that they do offer a lot of information in the various rooms, the conferences that they have. There's a lot of teaching. I know Laura Biewer, of course, is big NNA. She's worked for the NNA for years as an instructor. I'm kind of divided. I think that it's very expensive for most people. I don't know if somebody's on here, but I had one that she had an experience, and it really was very expensive, but she was brand new. She made some connections there, and she found it worthwhile to go. She told me later she would never go again, mainly because of the expense. It didn't equal what she got out of it. I think you have to be making pretty good money and really be hungry for whatever there is going on there as far as instructors. If they've got things that they're going to be talking about specifically that you really want to be a part of, that would be a big part of your decision.
Yeah, definitely. And so when it comes to these types of events, how you approach it is really going to determine the value for you. There are people who go to these things and swear by them. They're amazing. They absorb, they learn the information. There are others who approach a conference like this as a networking opportunity, which is huge. And really, that's what events like this are for. It's to connect with people on a different, deeper level than you might be able to from wherever you're based out of. But you have to prepare. And there's actually on my YouTube channel, we interviewed Robbie Samuels last year, right before the NNA conference. And Robbie actually coaches and teaches people how to maximize their time at these conferences. So you can find that webinar and actually take some notes. If you're going to go to this thing, maximize it. If you're going to drop, I mean, that can be pretty, like easily $1,000, maybe even a little bit more when it's all said and done with travel and expenses. You might be closer to 2,000. If you're going to invest that kind of money into your learning and your business, then you want to get the most out of it as possible. If you're not willing to do that, if you know yourself and you're just going to sit and be a fly on the wall in the back and not meet people and maybe not go to all the learning events, save your money, invest that somewhere else. That would be my suggestion. But if you can get out and you can meet people and maximize it, then it might, that $2,000 it cost you to do that might end up making you $200,000 a year. You just never know. Next question. Question for Laura. You know, she's not here today, so I'm going to skip this one. That was a great question, though. All right, I'm a bit confused now on if I'm even allowed to be a signing agent in North Carolina. My instructor gave her opinion of being completely against it, so I'm getting conflicting information. Any opinions on this, Carol?
Yeah, we have a lot of students there. They're doing great. Let me just say, and I don't think, let's see, is South Carolina attorney state? Or is she North Carolina or South Carolina?
She says North Carolina here.
Okay, because I don't see it on the screen, but we have a lot of students there. And I believe that North Carolina, Georgia, I'm trying to remember, there's about 6 states, attorney states.
Mm-hmm.
They are able to do signings. Okay, this is what I tell my students. It is not where the lender is. It is not where the property is. It's not where the signing service or the title company is. It's where the people are. And people all over the United States, as we know, are so transient that if they have a home in Phoenix and their signing service is in North Dakota and they live in North Carolina and the lender is in New York, there's only one place, there's only one choice that they have where they're picking the signing agent, and that's where the people are. So you're going to get so much business. I mean, I know North Carolina, our students are just doing great there because they're allowed to do anything as long as it doesn't involve property right in North Carolina. And I think North Carolina I know Georgia's doing great, and it's definitely an attorney state.
Yeah, that's the key. And you do get conflicting information, but I have to encourage you to dive a little deeper, because here's what we're running into. Is in attorney states, attorneys like to protect that business. So if you call an attorney and ask them what they can do, what they can do, they're going to tell you, I will send you a letter, or I'm going to scare the crap out of you so you don't jump into my business. That's how they make their living. They're just signing agents as well. The rule of thumb, and I've talked to a few attorneys just trying to get to the end, because I've called the National Notary Association too on this. I can't get a straight answer from them. I can't get one from the Secretary of State in South Carolina or North Carolina or Georgia. You know, everybody's so afraid to say something because there's no court rulings on anything. But here's what the attorneys have told me. They said that the languaging, how we market ourselves, is very important. If you list yourself as a closing agent, you might have some problems, because we are not closing agents. We are signing agents. It's not just semantics, guys. There's a huge difference.
Big difference.
We don't transfer money anywhere. We don't record documents. We don't do any of that. Essentially, when it comes down to it, we are collectors of signatures. That's what we do in our job and our role. And an attorney can hire us. A title company can hire us. Anybody can hire us to fulfill that capacity. We're just an extension of their services. And in these attorney states, you'll find that the law says that an attorney must be present or involved in the closing of a real estate transaction. That's a huge different meaning. And there's probably attorneys involved in the closing behind the scenes. But for you, in your role, you are just collecting signatures on their behalf. Now, again, we can't quote, none of us are lawyers on here, so you have to kind of navigate it your way. But as Carol said, and as I've experienced, there are thriving signing agents in all three of those attorney groups that we're talking about.
Can I add one little thing? If
Absolutely.
They haven't experienced it, you will one of these days. The first time it happened to us, I couldn't believe it. We were told that an attorney would be calling because we were handling a property person that lived in where we were, Sun City, Arizona at the time. And they said that you had to answer the phone. The attorney would get on the phone. It would be a part of the signing. And that happened. We were doing the signing. The attorney called, got on the phone, probably talked for 2 minutes. And the bill on the HUD was $450. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll get on the phone and talk to people for $450.
Yeah, good for them.
But that's their involvement when you're doing a signing. I haven't ever had an attorney spend more than just a few minutes on the phone, and that's what they do.
That's what they do. In Georgia, I've noticed that some of them actually will be on the speaker the entire time. That's just how they've interpreted the law, but still utilizing signing agents to complete the duties. Great question. I'm glad somebody brought that up again. Okay, so next question. I'm very hesitant to pre-type the names and other details into my signing documents because some lenders are so particular about ink color and such. I have heard you mention that you prep documents before, but I'm nervous about getting flagged and having to re-sign because I was being too fancy. Are there instances where the lender does not want the signing agent to alter the documents by prepping with pre-filled type and would prefer ink instead? In my opinion, and I think you're talking about some of the prepping that I do here, and I can't remember who this was, but I never prep with typing. And I never prep anything that is supposed to be done in front of a lender, or in front of a signer. So I know I've recently encountered some notaries going above and beyond maybe and actually using Adobe or whatever PDF creator to actually type in information. For me, I would not recommend you do that. That is altering a legal document or could be interpreted as that. So I would probably avoid doing that. And if it's blank, handwrite the information in. If you want to handwrite the date or however it is that you prepare, maybe your venue or your state, that's one thing, but you don't need to go and start typing things. Carol, do you have an opinion on what we're describing here?
Well, actually, I was going to talk briefly about one of the things we're talking about in a little while before you're signing and after you're signing, little habits and things that you have. One of the things that I think saves a whole lot of time is when you get a set of documents, if you have the time, you can fill out like your acknowledgments, your jurats. You can put all of the information, their names and everything, as long as you know it's going to be matching, it's going to be correct. The only thing that you cannot do ever is sign and stamp it. That has to be done in front of the signers. But yeah, it saves a lot of time if you can fill in your journal, if you can fill in those notarial certificates, that kind of thing. But you're right. I wouldn't presume to fill in any forms. Actually, we're not supposed to fill in anything anyway. But if there are some things that you are able to do, it doesn't take that long to do it when you're with the borrower. Maybe your acknowledgments. And I was going to go over that too. One of the things is your acknowledgments. You can, if you have like Adobe Professional, there's things that you can prepare. But as far as the loan documents, no, I don't think I'd touch those.
Yeah, cool. And that's exactly what I would say too. And that's actually what I teach as well with the acknowledgments and the notarial certificates. Just never sign and stamp. Because your notarization serves two purposes. It protects the lender, but it also protects the signers in front of you. So you have to do that in front of them. Most states require that by law. Great question. Okay. I absolutely love Carol's stories. See, Carol, I'm still waiting to hear what happened when she went to the signing and the husband had changed his gender to a woman. Couldn't that be confused with attempted fraud and ID tampering? Would I, as the notary, ask to see some sort of papers? And if so, how could I authenticate the validity of the documents?
Well, I don't know how far I got on it. I remember I think that she had handed me her driver's license, which was now with her female name. The picture substantiated that this was who was sitting in front of me. And we didn't know what to do. We couldn't get a hold of anybody. I didn't want to leave without making some sort of an attempt at figuring out how to do this. So what I did was, I don't know what made me ask her, but I said, how long ago did you have this change done? And she said, it turned out it was very recently. And I said, you wouldn't happen to have we were in Arizona too, Bill, where they don't punch a hole in your driver's license if you change it. So I said, do you happen to have your driver's license as your husband name, as his name? And she says, yeah. She said, I do. And she left the room and she came back, and sure enough, she had a driver's license in her married male name that had not expired. And I saw the picture, and she hadn't changed very much. I mean, she had longer hair and makeup, but basically I could tell it was the same person, same signature, different name. And because it had not expired, what I did is I identified on the documents, I identified the him, the Mr. And then what we did is I took an AKA statement, thank goodness it happened to be in the paperwork, and we did an AKA, and I wrote a note because I couldn't get a hold of anybody at title or escrow, and I would have preferred to get them to tell me, I could or couldn't do it. And I wrote a note and I told them exactly what had happened, sent them a copy of both driver's licenses, and they passed it. They let it go. And we were just so happy because we didn't know what was going to happen. And I have to tell you, it was one of the most remarkable things that happened to us because, and I know some of you may have some weird feelings about it, they were the nicest people, and they chose to stay together. And I asked them at one point, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I asked them at one point, I said, how does your family feel? Because I think I know how I'd feel if my daughter-in-law suddenly became my son-in-law or vice versa. And, they said their family had known about this for a long time. They were all for it, and they were a very close family. And I left feeling so good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Keeping my fingers crossed,
Yeah, for the legality part. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Great story and an unusual encounter for sure. Okay, so I want to make sure that we have time to present our information because what we're going to talk about, Carol and I are going to present a few habits or routines or what I call rituals that we do both before a signing or after a signing. And a ritual is just a string of habits that you put together, usually when triggered by a certain event. So I'm going to let Carol kind of talk about what she teaches and how she used to prepare for a signing ahead of time. And then I have a couple of comments that I'll jump in with there, and then I'll tell you how I usually close after, or the 4 things I do after a signing is complete while I'm still sitting in the driveway. So Carol, you want to take it away here for the beginning?
Sure. What I'm going to do is I did prepare a few things because I thought it was important. So I need to find these things. I'm going to be putting them on my screen.
Oh boy.
I don't know what you're seeing now, but let me.
You have not started sharing, so we can't see anything. So just wait till you bring it up and I'll show you how to share.
Yeah, and then I just share my screen, right?
You got it.
Okay, so I'm going to give you just a couple things that'll hopefully help you that comes before the signing. Okay, I'm going to, let's see, how do I do this? Because I need to pull up Zoom. Okay, let's see, can I open? Yeah, I can open up Zoom now. Okay, so I've never done this.
So if you
I haven't done it yet, I share my student's screen so I can see their documents, but let me do this. So I clicked on that share screen.
And then you just choose the screen that you want to share.
Okay, here it is. Click on it and share. Okay, all right, so I have a few things that will help you way before you even start to do the closings. I'm just going to show you quickly. This is just a label. I created this years and years and years ago. When you get a confirmation from, you can do on Avery. I used to print them out by the hundreds. And I would always stick this label on the upper right-hand corner of the confirmations. Because as I was going through my confirmations, either before or after the signings, this was so easy for me because I had the signing company, the date of the signing, the time, whether it was e-docs, overnight, how much the pay was. If we were going to do a CD for the borrowers, if we were doing paper copies, if I had asked for a copy of their ID, I checked this, just sort of checking up on myself. If I had double-checked the address, and then down here when the signing was completed, and if I had invoiced. That was something I stuck on every single confirmation sheet, so that it was so easy for me when I completed the signing to find that signing and then fill this out, file it away. Okay, now the next thing, let me see. I'm going to close this out and see if I can find. Okay, here's another thing. Okay, screen has stopped sharing. Okay. I hope you guys will be patient with me. I've not done this before, one thing after another. One of the things that, here's another thing. We have these in the library. You can get them from your state, anything that you want. Let me do this. And then how do I go? Oh, then I go here. And I go here. Okay. I don't know if this is it. Nope. I'm trying to find this. Okay, there we go. Can you guys see this?
No, we can't.
Can you hear me? You can't see it?
We can't see.
Am I not sharing?
You'll have to stop sharing. You're sharing the file window on your computer, not the actual document.
Oh, okay. So what do I do, Bill?
You've got to probably open up the document first.
Okay.
Outside
Which
of
I did, so.
Okay, so just stop sharing. So if you go to the top of your window, you can hit stop share.
I see something in the box to the left.
Yeah, I think I see, well, I'm still sharing, but you're not seeing it. Anyway, basically what this is, because I really have a couple things I'd like for you to see, but basically what this is that you should always have, I'm going to stop sharing. I'll stop sharing. Okay, what you should always do is have a collection of notarial certificates, which would be acknowledgments, like separate acknowledgments, state compliant acknowledgments, and carry those with you. Because you never know when you're going to have to attach those to documents. And I was going to show you on the separate acknowledgments down at the bottom, it allows you to attach it to a document, and you put in the name of the document it's attached to, so it can't be used for anything else. You don't want companies to take your acknowledgement and stick it on something else. That's a pre-prep. Carry those with you all the time. Let me go back to my documents here.
So do you staple the separate acknowledgement to the document?
Yes. And let's see, do this. And let me see if I'm sharing. Here it is. There we go. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. This is what I call a cheat sheet. This will save you so much time if you can see this thing. If you have one of these on your computer and you just keep it there, and every time you go to a signing, you just get in here and you correct or change the names, the initials, and the date. The date is at the bottom. Put them in large letters, put their names exactly how they're going to sign them, put their initials exactly how they need to initial them. If you've got a power of attorney, you want to set it up as a POA, they can sign as their attorney in fact, but bring this to the signing, set it in front of your borrowers, and as they go through the documents, they'll never have to ask you, well, wait a minute, I'm supposed to have a middle initial, or what's the date? especially when you go to do reverse mortgages. It's so helpful, and it really saves these people who can't remember really sometimes from one document to another what the date is.
Yeah.
And it saves so much time. So this is something my husband came up with, and it's called the cheat sheet. Now let's see if I can find what else we have here. Okay, now this one I just listed, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see.
You'll have to stop sharing and then share the new screen.
Okay, so stop share. Okay, and then find what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and then
okay. All right, and then share again.
You got it.
Bill teaches me so much. Okay, and then share again. Okay, and this is it. All right. Okay, so before you leave home, and this is the rituals that I went through, things that you take, things that you do. But what I do is to, I'm going to lower this, always do a step-by-step map. I know we all have GPS systems, but if you have been let down by your GPS, led the wrong way, which I can't tell you how many times I've ended up in the mountains when I wanted someplace else. And I learned to do this, and it was so helpful. Print a step-by-step map to the location, because invariably there's going to be times when you're going to have a problem with your GPS. Keep that on the seat next to you. Actually, what I used to do is take my confirmation and print a map with the directions, and I would staple it like upside down so that if I turned the confirmation up, I could read it. And if I turned it over, then I had the map and the directions right there next to me while I'm driving. If you're going at night, always try to get something from the people that tells them something unique about their home, such as they have a picket fence, is there a fountain in their yard, a boat in the driveway. What we found, and Bill, you know this, in the newer communities in Arizona, these builders think it's so pretty and clever to put the house number on the house the same color as the stucco. Try to find the addresses at night, because you can't see them, much less read them. They're all in the same color. So you need this magnificent flashlight, trying to find them. So that was very frustrating. And then always, for safety and, just knowing it's there if you need it, always have your phone with you, even while you're at the signing. You want to make sure it's there. And I won't try to talk you into answering during the signing, even though I did. But because I was hungry when we were new, especially. But just for your own safety, you want people to know you have that phone, available. Always have your shipping package ready to accept documents and drop at the store. And I'm sure Bill teaches you this. Never take it to a Dropbox. Never. Print the borrower's names. If you have 6 signings, you absolutely want to put their name in big black marking pen on the outside of the envelope. I mixed them up one time, had one set go to one title company and one to the other. Thank goodness they were close together and they happened to be friends, and they exchanged for me. That was horrible. I did that once. And then, now this is something that's kind of important. When you're brand new, and I don't know how many of you are, here's some things that are going to help you a lot. When you decide before you ever get to the signing, how you are going to seat the borrowers at the signing table is crucial. Be quiet. And nobody here to answer, so sorry. And I mean, like, if you're right-handed and you're picturing their dining room table, do you want to sit at the head of the table and have the borrowers to your right because it's easier to hand your documents off to the right? Do you want the primary borrower, Mr. or whatever, Mrs., to sit directly next to you and then they pass those documents on to the spouse? And then do you want the spouse to go ahead and take those documents and put them upside down in front of them? Or do you want them to, just hand you the documents? So when you prepare those simple things, the first thing that happens is that they will automatically feel like, well, you've done this before, you know what you're doing, and they'll have more confidence. If you walk in like fumbling around, well, let's see, where am I going to have you sit? And I don't know if this is making any point to you, but it's so important that they get that feeling from the moment that you walk into the door that you're confident, you know what you're doing, and you demonstrate it in that way. Now, one of the things that when you get to the home that I always tell my students, when you get to the place that you're going to be parking your car, take a look around, get yourself familiar with where you are, what type of a neighborhood it is, and then just breathe. When you get up to the porch, you're ready to knock on that door, look around again, get comfortable, relax, take a couple of deep breaths, and just kind of calm down a little bit. Put a smile on your face. And when they open that door, they're going to see somebody that's very confident, relaxed, with a smile, they're friendly. And the most crucial thing of all is when the minute you walk into that door, leave the phony persona behind you and be yourself. People know. If you are not being yourself, believe me, they'll know. And from that moment on, they're going to question everything that you do. I have a quickie story. I had one of my students who was terrified, for some reason, unusually terrified, that people were going to know it was her first signing. She called me after the signing. I was a little nervous for her because she was so afraid of it. And I said, so how did it go? And she said, oh, they were so nice. She said, they were just wonderful. And I said, did they know that it was your first signing? And they said, and she started giggling. And I think a lot about her giggling. And she said, no. She said, we were halfway through the signing when both the husband and wife said, how many of these do you do a week? Oh my God, that just made her career right then and there. She was so excited. So those are the things that I suggest that you do to make this a great experience, even at the first time.
Awesome. That's some really great practical tools that people can use. So Carol, thank you so much for sharing that. And I was so glad to see that you mentioned breathing. There's so much power in breathing, guys, especially when you're in the new, when you're new to this business. Just centering yourself, getting present in the moment, that taking 10 deep breaths right before you knock on the door, before you get out of the car, whatever it is. That is actually one of the things that I do all day, every day in my car to help it keeps me energized and present whenever, I'm doing 6 to 10 of these things in a day. It can be really exhausting, and breathing helps me keep my wits about me. Another thing that I add in there too, before each signing, I kind of decide how I want to show up to the signing. So I come up with like 2 or 3 just keywords that just help me get in the zone with it. And the reason that this matters is that when you're in the zone, when you're present with your signer, it allows you to stay connected with them and have smooth and efficient signings. So you can get them done efficiently and friendly-like, so that people aren't feeling like they were rushed. Even though you might be going a million miles a minute in your head, you're present with your signer. So just a few to give you an example of what I'll do is I'll have be present, be fun, be confident. Those are some of the things that I think about depending on the situation. So that's what I kind of ingrain in my head as I prepare in my vehicle to do the signing. Now, the 4 things that I do after a signing, if you're part of the Sign and Thrive, you're probably pretty familiar with these, but I want to share this too, and I'll share my screen here. Just share these with you real quick. Let's that. So as soon as I get into a car, and one of the things too that we'll talk about is I never park in somebody's driveway. And I recommend that you never park in their driveway either. There's a few reasons for that. Number one, you might be leaking something onto their driveway and people really take that personally. If they have an HOA, they might actually get fined for that as well. That time that you're checking your documents, that's probably going to be your 2nd or 3rd time actually checking the documents. So I'll actually sit in my vehicle and go through. Remember, especially if you're in the beginning, but I do this even, with years of experience, I quadruple check my documents, because this is not about not knowing what to sign. This is about things slipping through as you're having communication or you're bonding with people. You might be laughing, joking, crying, whatever it is. You might just accidentally miss a document, or sometimes they stick together. So don't let your ego get in the way of you checking your documents. Check these documents. You might catch something right then that's real easy to fix because you're sitting in front of the borrower's house or down the street. The second thing I do, depending on the client's requirements, I'm either going to send or upload the identification. Luckily, as we're kind of moving into this new age of information protection, you get a lot of title companies or signing companies that no longer require that we send or upload the IDs, but I still have some title escrow direct that require that every single time. And if the borrower does not have a copy machine or hasn't followed instructions and provided those, I've got to get those. So I've got to upload those to a secure portal, and I do so right away because that can delay funding if they don't have a record of the ID. The next thing that I'm going to do for escrow direct, I'm going to send an invoice right out immediately. I'm going to send it right away. That's almost a cue to my escrow direct clients that the signing's complete and that we're good to go. And you never, ever, ever want to make escrow officers wait to pay you. A lot of times you're going to be paid right out of the file, and that means that your signing services are a line item on the settlement statement. So as soon as that thing closes, they need to cut you a check and be done with it. That's how they close out their files. So you want to make sure that gets to them as soon as possible. And then if you're just working with signing companies, every signing company kind of has their own rules for how you're supposed to indicate completion. So whatever that rule is, that would be a time to do it. And then the fourth and final, and I think the most important of everything if you're talking about propelling your business forward and any other businesses you might do in the future, is to send a card or note. And you're going to send this to maybe the signers that you just signed. I recommend that you mention something about the conversation you just had, some way that you connected. If they just bought a new house, it can be a congratulations. If they're refinancing to redo their kitchen, you can address that. If you connected with their dog or their kids or whatever it was in that signing that helps them remember you, make a comment about that. There's lots of technology that can help you do this. You have TouchNote, which is a smartphone application on your phone now. And then very similar to that is called Send Out Cards. That's the service I use and have used, but I might be transitioning to TouchNote now. And then I always sign it as Bill, the notary, because they forget about me pretty much as soon as that door shuts behind. No matter how strong our connection is, there's a good chance that people are going to forget about you as soon as that door shuts behind you. So I always sign the card, Bill the notary. And then the next level of this, guys, is to continue communicating with those clients. And not pitching your services, not selling, but building a relationship. Send them a holiday card, send them a birthday card, whatever it is that you choose to do, some creative and authentic way to stay connected with them. And those are the four things I do after a signing. And we got some questions about that. Okay, hey Bill, what invoicing program do you use? I'll admit to you guys, I'm using an antiquated one right now. It's called GoDaddy Bookkeeping. It's what I started using. Actually, it was called Outbound or Outward or something way back in the day, and GoDaddy bought them. And I've just maintained the same one because I don't have time for a learning curve to learn another one. I understand QuickBooks is out there. Notaries specifically have some great tools out there too, Notary Gadget and things like that. So there's lots of options for you. Where do you get an invoice template? The cheapest way is Microsoft Word. They have them available and free. And I know there's lots of other resources out there. When you're just starting out, guys, like when I first started out, I had a manual system. I literally used a Word, Microsoft Word template. I had files, paid, not paid files going on my desk. It was fine until you get the volume. It's not scalable. So you have to, at some point, get a service that helps you track those and helps track when you get paid. If you start building a team, you need a way to track the people that you need to pay as well. Bill, can we send the thank you notes even though we were sent through a signing company. So Nellie, in short, yes, unless you're directed otherwise. But let me add the caveat here. I'm not talking about sending cards to the escrow officers. That would be interpreted as trying to poach those escrow officers from the signing company that hired you, and that is frowned upon, and in some cases illegal, definitely unethical. So we want to avoid any of that. We want to work in integrity, and what I'm talking about is building a relationship with the signer, the person that you signed. And we're not talking about doing that just to pitch your business. You know, we're not going to sell them a card. Here's my notary services. Guess what? Here's my notary services again. Merry Christmas. Here's my notary services. That's not what this is about at all. This is about cultivating relationships and growing those throughout the years. There's a good chance that anybody that has utilized your signing services as a signer, they probably are going to need a notary at some point. They're going to remember your experience and the fact that you stayed in touch with them all year, and that's going to generate more business for you. Let's see. I own a financial business. Do you suggest we use and suggest to our clients using QuickBooks? Okay, excellent. QuickBooks is a great one. Do I include a business card in my note to the signer? Dita, I do not. And there's theories behind that. I'm focusing solely on building a relationship. I am not selling my services. Anybody, you know, when you get a Christmas card and the business card falls out of it before you even open it, there's something that happens inside the customer there. It almost cheapens it just a little bit. And it's not to say that it's not effective in some cases, because sure, it can be. But when it's just you genuinely reaching out and just staying in touch with people, that changes everything. If you're constantly pitching, this is going to have a much less impact. It's not going to work nearly as much. Oh, PayPal has an invoice template. Good. It's good suggestions in here. And then what merchant service do I use if a client pays directly? Do you accept checks and credit cards? Yeah, Square. And then I have Stripe connected to GoDaddy bookkeeping. It very rarely gets used though, guys. Most of my work is through signing companies. So signing companies pay with a check, title companies pay with a check. For general notary work, I really push people to cash. All right, guys, it is now 10:01 Mountain Time. I want to respect your time. Carol, are you still on with us?
I'm here.
Oh, there she is. All right, Carol. Thank you so much again for taking some time out of your Tuesday to participate with us. This was awesome. Thank you for sharing your insight on those pre-signing rituals. And guys, thank you all who tuned in, listened in, and spent an hour of your day with us growing yourself and your business. I'll look forward to seeing you next week.
How do they like our new name? I want to know.
I'm getting lots of positive feedback. Anybody else like the TNT name?
Love it.
You gotta love it, love, love.
I like it.
Cool. Lots of love. Thank you. I appreciate
We're blowing it up.
Blowing it up. Exactly. Blowing up the business. All right, guys.
Everybody have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Bill. Bye, everyone.